All right, so let's dive in. Today, we're taking a deep dive into market trends and AI's rise using this fascinating morning briefing from PantheonAI. It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. Stocks, crypto, global trends, you name it. It's like a snapshot of what's really moving the markets today, December 23rd, 2024.
Okay, so big picture first. The U.S. stock indices seem to be pretty happy today, wouldn't you say? The S&P 500 is up 1.52%. The Dow Jones gained 1.28%.
Yep, and even the Nasdaq jumped almost 2%. And hey, it's not just the big players.
Oh, right, the Russell 2000.
Exactly. That one, which tracks smaller companies, it's up a solid 1.85%. So you see this widespread positivity, and you got to wonder, is this a blip or a trend? Like, are investors just having a good day, or is this the market signaling something bigger, a longer growth period?
The million-dollar question right there. But hey, speaking of good vibes, crypto's feeling it too.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, Bitcoin's up over 1%, and Ethereum gained almost 2%.
Interesting. It's like crypto's mirroring the stock market, almost becoming more, integrated with traditional finance. Makes you think, are the same things driving stock growth, like AI innovation, also pushing crypto upward?
Okay, so this next part really caught my eye. The briefing mentions a prediction. And I want to emphasize, we're not endorsing this prediction, just exploring it. Investment manager Louis Navellier suggests a potential global interest rate collapse.
A collapse. Wow.
Yeah, he thinks we could see huge amounts of money flowing into U.S. treasuries, which would push down their yields.
He goes as far as to predict the Federal Reserve could make as many as 4 rate cuts next year. Think about what that means. Borrowing money would get so much cheaper for businesses, for people looking to buy houses. It could really boost investment and economic growth.
It sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any potential downsides to something like that?
Well, of course, there are always two sides to every coin, right? While lower interest rates can really kickstart the economy, they can also lead to inflation. And when prices rise, the value of your savings goes down, your purchasing power shrinks.
That's a great point.
This is the tightrope the Federal Reserve always has to walk, balancing growth with inflation control.
So for someone listening to us right now, if this wild prediction actually came true, what should they do? Rush to get a mortgage before rates maybe plummet, or hold off on big purchases just in case inflation takes off?
Those are the right questions to be asking. It really highlights the need for personalized financial advice because the best move depends on your own situation, your risk tolerance and all that.
Makes sense. Let's shift gears a bit, talk about energy. The briefing says oil prices are down, continuing a decline that started last week. Seems the strong U.S. dollar is making oil pricier for buyers using other currencies.
And on top of that, demand from China, they're the world's biggest oil importer, it seems to be weakening. Probably tied to worries about how fast their economy is really recovering. If China's not consuming as much oil, well, you get a surplus, and that pushes prices down.
So is this oil price dip just a temporary thing or a sign of something bigger happening in the energy market?
That's the interesting part. Could this be connected to the global shift towards renewable energy? As more countries invest in solar, wind, and other clean technologies, the demand for fossil fuels could gradually decline.
That makes sense. But, this transition, it's going to take time. We're still very dependent on oil, especially for things like transportation. It's fascinating to watch how the sector's evolving.
All right, let's move from oil to an industry known for its surprises. Pharmaceuticals.
Oh, yeah, always something happening there.
The briefing actually has this intriguing case study about Novo Nordisk. Their stock plummeted 27%, despite promising trials for new treatments for Alzheimer's and obesity-related diabetes. Wow, you'd think positive news like that would boost the stock, not send it crashing.
Exactly. So what's going on there?
Some analysts, like Intron Health, think the market might be overreacting. They believe these trials could be absolute game changers for those conditions, which would obviously be huge for Novo Nordisk.
So are investors being overly pessimistic? Or is there actually something else to be worried about?
Well, the pharmaceutical industry, it's always been volatile. You've got clinical trial results, regulatory approvals, competition, and then there's just general investor sentiment.
Right.
This case shows just how important it is to look beyond the headlines and do your own research before you make any investment decisions,
Absolutely. It also shows that what looks like a disaster in the short term could actually be a hidden opportunity for people who are thinking long term.
Exactly. Sometimes stepping back and looking at the bigger picture is key to making smart decisions, especially in a sector as unpredictable as pharmaceuticals.
Okay, before we dive into specific companies, let's zoom back out and look at some broader sector trends. The briefing highlights technology, energy, and finance as key areas.
And the interesting thing is how interconnected they all are, even though they seem so different at first glance.
That's so true. Let's start with technology. No surprise, AI is still the driving force. The briefing says companies leading the charge in AI integration are not only gaining market share, but also reshaping entire industries.
It's mind-blowing. We're seeing AI used to optimize supply chains, personalize customer experiences, even create entirely new products and services. It's like living in a sci-fi movie.
And it's not just about cool gadgets. AI has the potential to tackle some of the world's biggest challenges, like climate change and disease. It's an exciting time to be witnessing this tech revolution unfold.
Absolutely. Now, switching to energy, the focus remains on sustainability and the shift towards renewable energy sources.
Even with this dip in oil prices, the long-term trend seems to be pointing toward a cleaner energy future, which means traditional energy companies need to adapt, and fast.
It's a time of massive transformation. Some companies are going all in on renewable energy tech, while others are focused on reducing their carbon footprint and promoting energy efficiency.
It's like a multi-pronged approach to navigate this changing landscape. Now let's talk finance. This sector's been dealing with fluctuating interest rates and those ever-changing regulations.
And remember our earlier chat about those potential U.S. rate cuts. The briefing highlights how financial institutions are adjusting their strategies to handle all this uncertainty.
If interest rates really do fall, we could see a surge in market activity and a huge demand for investment products, which would be great for lenders and investment banks.
But there are risks too, of course. Lower interest rates can sometimes encourage excessive risk-taking, which can lead to asset bubbles. Financial institutions will need to walk that line carefully, balancing growth with responsible lending and risk management.
Makes sense. So we've got technology driving innovation, energy transitioning towards sustainability, and finance adapting to shifting interest rates. These sectors, they're all connected, influencing each other's paths.
And like we've seen in this deep dive, they're also intertwined with global events, economic policies, and even just how investors are feeling. It's a complex web, and understanding these connections is key to making informed decisions in today's world.
You're absolutely right. But there's another crucial piece we need to explore: the global implications of all these trends.
Ah, yes. Let's broaden our perspective a bit and see how these developments are affecting things globally.
The briefing points out that potential U.S. rate cuts could have a major impact on currency valuations and the flow of capital around the world.
Especially emerging markets.
Yeah.
They could experience a lot of volatility as investors adjust their portfolios based on the changing interest rate differences. And, that volatility, it creates both risks and opportunities for businesses and investors operating internationally.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is. What happens in one part of the world can have a huge impact elsewhere.
Absolutely. The global economy is becoming more integrated every day, which means we need to think globally and stay informed about what's happening in different regions.
It's all about recognizing that interconnectedness. Okay, as we wrap up this whirlwind tour of market trends, global insights, and the growing influence of AI, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think this deep dive really shows how dynamic the interplay is between technological innovation, economic policy shifts, and market sentiment. They're constantly shaping and reshaping the investment landscape.
And it underscores how important it is to stay informed, be adaptable, and open to new ideas. In a world that's changing faster than ever, knowledge really is power.
Couldn't agree more. And that brings us to our final thought for today. In this dynamic and ever-evolving landscape, how can individuals and businesses position themselves to not just weather change, but thrive in it?
That's a fantastic question for our listeners to think about. What stood out to you the most from this deep dive? What questions did it raise for you?
We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the conversation. And remember, Pantheon AI is here to be your trusted information co-pilot, providing you with the insights you need to navigate the complexities of finance, business, and technology.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and stay ahead of the curve.
Until next time. Yeah, it really is remarkable how quickly things can shift, especially in the financial markets. And that's where tools like Pantheon AI can be so helpful, Sifting through all that information, giving you the data you need to make good decisions.
It's like having your own personal research team, always scanning for the latest trends and opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, the briefing gets into some sector-specific insights that I thought were really interesting. Like in tech, AI is obviously still a big deal.
Oh, for sure.
But what I found fascinating was that fund managers are getting increasingly bullish on AI-driven gains.
They are. The briefing actually names 5 companies that they think are going to benefit big time from this trend.
Really? Who are they watching?
Well, one of them is Duolingo, which I thought was pretty cool.
Duolingo, for language learning.
Yep. Imagine AI-powered language lessons, totally personalized to how you learn best. It's a perfect example of how AI is being integrated into every part of our lives.
It's not just about inventing new stuff. It's about making what we already have better, more efficient, more accessible, like having a personal tutor in your pocket. But the impact of AI goes way beyond tech, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The briefing also talks about AI's role in the energy sector. Even with the dip in oil prices we talked about, the focus is still on sustainability and the transition to renewables. It seems like long-term, we're heading toward a future powered by clean energy.
So traditional energy companies, they've got some adapting to do.
Big time. It's a huge shift. Some companies are going all in on green technologies. Others are focused on reducing their carbon footprint and promoting energy efficiency. The briefing actually mentions a few companies making big strides in those areas, investing in things like carbon capture and storage. It's encouraging to see such a proactive approach to creating a more sustainable energy future.
It really is. But while we're transitioning to renewables, we still rely heavily on oil, which brings us back to that drop in oil prices. We touched on it before, but it's a great example of just how complex the energy market is.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
The briefing points to the strong U.S. dollar, which is making oil more expensive for international buyers, and then there's that weakening demand from China.
Those two factors are definitely linked. A strong dollar can curb demand for oil, and the questions about China's economic outlook are making people wonder about their future energy needs.
Right, it's a reminder that the energy market is global, and what happens in one part of the world can affect everything.
Absolutely. This volatility is probably going to stick around as the world figures out this whole transition to a more sustainable energy mix. It's a dynamic sector, that's for sure, with both challenges and opportunities.
Speaking of challenges and opportunities, the briefing also talks about how the finance sector is going through some major changes. Fluctuating interest rates, regulatory shifts. It's a lot to keep up with.
And then there's those potential U.S. rate cuts we discussed earlier. It's creating a lot of buzz, but also some uncertainty within the finance sector.
Lower interest rates could be great for the economy, stimulating lending and investment. But they also come with the risk of inflation and those asset bubbles. It's a tough balancing act for policymakers.
For sure. Financial institutions are having to adjust to this constantly changing landscape, finding ways to stay profitable while managing risk.
It's all about being adaptable and strategic. The briefing mentions how lenders and investment banks are already changing their strategies, getting ready for those possible rate cuts. Some are focusing on expanding their loan portfolios. Others are looking for those higher-yielding investments. It's a dynamic time to be in finance, that's for sure.
Adaptability and strategic thinking seem to be the key themes throughout this entire briefing.
You're right.
It's not enough to just react to what's happening. You have to anticipate trends, assess risks, make informed decisions based on good data and analysis. That's where tools like PantheonAI come in.
They give you the information you need to navigate this complex world. It's like having a co-pilot to guide you through those turbulent skies.
Yeah.
But you still have to be an active participant, you know? Stay engaged, curious, and willing to adapt.
That's what we're trying to do here, right? Give our listeners the knowledge and tools they need to not just survive, but thrive in this ever-changing world.
Exactly. We want to spark your curiosity, encourage critical thinking, and inspire you to take action. The future isn't something that happens to us, it's something we create.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, let's shift our focus a bit and look at the global implications of all these trends. The briefing mentions that potential U.S. rate cuts could impact currency valuations and capital flows around the world.
Things get really interesting when you start looking at the global picture. The U.S. dollar is such a crucial part of the global financial system that any changes in U.S. monetary policy can have ripple effects across international markets.
And those ripple effects create both opportunities and risks for businesses and investors that operate internationally. Like, if U.S. interest rates fall, that could make U.S. assets less attractive to foreign investors, which could lead to a weaker dollar.
So U.S. exports would become more competitive, but importing goods would get more expensive for U.S. consumers.
Exactly. It's a complex web of connections. It shows how important it is to have a global perspective when you're making financial decisions.
We can't just think about what's happening in our own backyard anymore. We have to be aware of how events in one part of the world can affect us, no matter where we are.
That's where resources like Pantheon AI can be so valuable, providing curated insights and data-driven analysis on global trends, helping you understand the bigger picture.
It's like having a team of global analysts at your fingertips. But it's not just about consuming information. It's about engaging with it, questioning it, connecting the dots.
That's what we've been doing in this deep dive, right? Trying to present a multifaceted perspective on all the forces at play and encourage you to think critically about these ideas.
Because knowledge is power, but only if you use it wisely. We have to use our ability to analyze, interpret, and apply information in a way that creates positive change.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this global exploration, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that while the global economy has its challenges, it's also full of opportunities for those who are prepared and adaptable.
We need to stay informed, think strategically, and focus on the long game.
Embrace innovation, diversify your investments, and don't hesitate to seek expert advice when you need it.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, let's dive into one of the most exciting and rapidly evolving areas shaping our world today: artificial intelligence.
AI is everywhere these days. Our phones, cars, homes, it's everywhere. But what's really driving this AI revolution, and what does it mean for our lives, our businesses, and our society as a whole?
Those are great questions. To answer them, we need to look at both the technical advancements and the societal forces that are driving AI's development and adoption.
Okay, so let's start with the technical side. What are some of the breakthroughs that have led to this explosion in AI capabilities?
One of the biggest advancements has been in machine learning, especially deep learning. These algorithms, they're inspired by the human brain, and they've allowed computers to do things that we used to think only humans could do, like image recognition, natural language processing, even decision-making.
It's amazing. Computers learning and adapting like that.
Yeah.
But what's fueling this rapid progress in machine learning?
A few key factors. First, the amount of data available to train these algorithms has exploded. With the internet, social media, the Internet of Things, we're generating tons of data every second. And that data is what powers machine learning.
It's like we're constantly feeding these AI algorithms information, and they're getting smarter with every byte. But data alone isn't enough, right? You need the computing power to process it all.
Exactly. Advancements in computing power, especially specialized hardware like GPUs, they're essential. GPUs are perfect for the complex calculations involved in deep learning.
So we've got the data, the algorithms, the computing power. What's the missing ingredient?
Human ingenuity. We need smart engineers, researchers, data scientists to develop the algorithms, design the systems, and understand the results. And we need investors, entrepreneurs, and policymakers to support the development and adoption of these technologies.
It's a team effort, and it's really inspiring to see so many brilliant minds working together to advance AI. But like with any powerful technology, there are potential risks and challenges too, right?
Absolutely. It's crucial that we address those challenges proactively and responsibly. One of the biggest concerns is AI's potential to replace human workers. As AI gets more advanced, it can automate tasks that humans used to do, which leads to worries about job losses and economic disruption.
That's a valid concern. But some experts argue that AI will also create new jobs and opportunities, just like previous technological revolutions.
That's a good point. And it's important to remember that AI is a tool. It can be used for good or bad. It's up to us as a society to make sure AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
We need to have conversations about the ethical implications of AI and develop guidelines and regulations to ensure it's used responsibly.
Couldn't agree more. And those conversations need to involve everyone, not just the tech experts and policymakers. We need ethicists, social scientists, the general public, everyone.
Because ultimately, AI is going to affect all of us. We all have a stake in shaping its future.
Well said. Now let's take a look at some specific examples of how AI is transforming different industries. The briefing talks about a few, like the pharmaceutical sector, where AI is being used to speed up drug discovery and development.
Imagine AI helping us discover cures for diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, HIV/AIDS. That would be incredible.
It would be groundbreaking, and we're already seeing progress in that area. AI can analyze tons of data, medical images, genetic information, clinical trial results, finding patterns and insights that humans might miss.
It's like having a superpowered research assistant working around the clock.
Exactly, and that's just one example. AI is also being used to personalize treatment plans, improve diagnoses, even assist with surgeries. It's amazing to see the positive impact AI is already having on healthcare.
But what about other industries? What about finance? The briefing mentioned AI's role there as well.
Right. Finance is another area where AI is having a huge impact. AI algorithms are being used to detect fraud, assess risk, make investment decisions, often faster and more accurately than humans.
And that's just scratching the surface. AI is being used in customer service, marketing, supply chain management. It's helping businesses become more efficient and effective.
It's everywhere, and it's only going to become more common in the future.
But as we embrace AI, we can't forget about the potential risks and challenges.
Absolutely. One of the biggest challenges is making sure AI is fair, unbiased, and transparent. We need to be careful not to perpetuate existing biases or create new ones with the data we use to train these algorithms.
We need to make sure AI benefits everyone, not just a select few.
We need to have open conversations about the ethical implications and address concerns about privacy, security, and the potential for misuse.
It's a complex topic, but we can't ignore it. AI has the potential to change our world for the better, but only if we approach it thoughtfully and responsibly.
Well said. Okay, let's move on to the global economic outlook. The briefing mentions that global growth is expected to slow down next year because of several factors, like rising inflation, supply chain issues, and geopolitical tensions.
So things are getting a bit shaky on the world stage.
Yeah, and all those challenges are interconnected. For example, the war in Ukraine has messed with global energy markets, which has added to inflation, and that's putting pressure on central banks to raise interest rates.
It's a complex and uncertain situation for businesses and investors worldwide.
Definitely. And it's important to remember that the global economy isn't one big blob. Different regions and countries are facing their own unique challenges and opportunities.
So let's break it down by region. What are some of the key trends happening in different parts of the world?
Okay, let's start with the United States. The U.S. economy is still relatively strong, but there are signs of slowing growth.
The briefing mentioned that consumer spending is down a bit, and businesses are being more cautious about investing because of inflation and rising interest rates.
Exactly. And that slowdown is expected to continue as the Federal Reserve keeps raising rates to try and control inflation.
Okay, what about Europe? How are they handling these global challenges?
Europe is in a tough spot right now because of the war in Ukraine and the energy crisis it's caused.
The briefing mentioned that a lot of European countries rely on Russian gas, and the disruption of those supplies has led to skyrocketing energy prices. People are worried about potential shortages.
Right. It's affecting the entire European economy, adding to inflation, slowing growth, and increasing the risk of recession.
It's a difficult situation. What about other regions, like Asia and Latin America?
Asia is a mixed bag. Some economies, like China and India, are still growing pretty strongly, but others, like Japan and South Korea, are facing headwinds from weak global demand and supply chain issues.
The briefing mentioned that China's economy is expected to slow down next year, too. A slowdown in the property market, weak consumer spending, and their zero-COVID policy are all factors.
Right, and that slowdown in China, the world's second largest economy, is having a big impact on the global economy as a whole.
What about Latin America?
Latin America is also facing a challenging environment. Rising inflation, weakening currencies, and political instability in some countries are all contributing to the problem.
The briefing said that many Latin American economies depend on commodity exports, and the recent drop in commodity prices has hurt their export earnings.
Exactly. That's putting pressure on their currencies and making imports more expensive, which is adding to inflation.
It's a complicated situation globally. The world economy is facing some significant challenges in the coming year.
It is, but it's important to remember that there are still opportunities out there, even amidst the challenges.
That's a good point. The briefing does focus on some potential investment opportunities in this evolving landscape.
It does. And despite the challenges, there are still some attractive investment opportunities for those who are willing to do their research and be selective.
The briefing highlights a few key themes to watch, like investing in innovation.
Exactly. Companies that are developing and adopting new technologies like AI, renewable energy, and biotechnology are well positioned for long-term growth.
Another theme is focusing on quality.
In a volatile market, you want to look for companies with strong financials, good earnings, and a proven track record.
The briefing also mentioned the importance of global diversification.
Absolutely. Spreading your investments across different regions and asset classes can help reduce risk and potentially improve returns.
And finally, it emphasizes being patient.
Investing is a marathon, not a sprint. It's important to stay focused on your long-term goals and not panic over short-term market fluctuations.
It sounds like having a solid investment strategy, doing your homework, and maybe seeking professional advice are all good ideas.
I completely agree. So, as we wrap up this discussion of the global economic outlook and potential investment opportunities, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the main takeaway is that while the global economy has its challenges, there's also a lot of opportunity for those who are prepared and adaptable.
Stay informed, be strategic, focus on the long term.
Embrace innovation, diversify your investments, and seek expert advice when you need it.
Excellent points. This has been a really insightful discussion. We've covered a lot of ground, from market trends and the rise of AI to the global economic outlook and potential investment strategies.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you. We hope our listeners found this deep dive valuable and thought-provoking.
We encourage everyone to keep exploring, stay curious, and engage with the world around them.
And don't forget, Pantheon AI is here to be your trusted information co-pilot, providing you with the insights you need to navigate the complexities of finance, business, and technology.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead of the curve.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. It really is amazing when you think about it, all these different trends and forces all interconnected. This deep dive has really highlighted how everything's linked. AI, technology, global economics, even investor psychology. It's like a giant, constantly moving puzzle.
It is, and it's always changing. That's why it's so important to stay informed, but it can also feel overwhelming trying to keep up with it all.
Exactly. That's where tools like Pantheon AI really come in handy, wouldn't you say? Cutting through all that noise and providing those curated insights, helping you focus on what really matters.
Absolutely. It's like having a guide in this complex financial world, pointing out the risks and the opportunities. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It really makes you think about the bigger picture. Like, how do we make sure AI is developed and used ethically? We need to ensure it benefits everyone, not just a select few.
That's a big one. And on a more practical level, how can businesses and individuals keep up with this rapid technological change? It's clear that skills like critical thinking, problem solving, adaptability, those are more crucial than ever.
For sure. And then, zooming out even further, how can we encourage more cooperation and collaboration on a global scale? We need to work together to address those big challenges like climate change, economic instability, all that.
Those are tough questions, no easy answers. But I think just acknowledging those challenges and having open and honest conversations is a good start.
I agree. And platforms like Pantheon AI can play a role in those conversations, sharing insights, connecting people with the information they need. So to wrap things up, we want to leave you with this final thought. In a world that's changing faster than ever, knowledge is power. But it's not enough to just sit back and absorb information.
You have to engage with it, question it, apply it to create positive change.
Stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged.
The future isn't something that just happens to us. We create it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.